Hey everyone, this is Kevin T. Rodriguez, and let's talk about the Disney Plus streaming service. The Disney Plus streaming service is Disney's most ambitious project to date in terms of streaming content. Before, they had licensed their stuff to places like Netflix and Hulu, but with the recent purchase of 20th Century Fox and their announcement that they are going to be competing head-on with Netflix with their own streaming services and original content, Disney is making a push into the online streaming market like no other companies have yet. They have already announced that pretty much all of their classic library will be on the site, as well as original content, but they warn that it will not be as massive as Netflix, Hulu, or even something as, say, Crunchyroll, because they don't have quite as much stuff to put. Which I find to be a very, very strange comment, because in reality, Disney has a lot of content. They have so much content that I think they could easily overpower Netflix and Hulu combined, especially once they really start digging in deep and realizing what it is they own and what they can put up. And while I do agree that putting everything up right away might be a little, as they say, counterintuitive because it could just simply overwhelm people, there are a lot of shows they own that they can put up that everyone would love to see that I fear they might not actually think of to put up. So what I'm going to do with this video is I'm going to highlight things that as a consumer, I would like to see on the Disney Plus service. And keep in mind, we're not going to be talking about Disney animated movies or Star Wars or Marvel movies or the classic Disney animated movies. I am more than certain that with the exception of at least one movie, we will be seeing all of those on the service at some point. Also, just to give you like a little bit of a heads up now, there will be a follow-up video to this in a week or two called The Things That I Would Be Surprised to See on the Disney streaming service, because I think that Disney might, for one reason or another, opt not to put that stuff on the service. So it's doubtful you're going to see the entire library on the site. But with that out of the way, let's start and get right into what I would like to see. Now, I should mention right up front that I do not like the fact that Disney bought 20th Century Fox. Those who've been watching my channel know that I am very much against that, and I was seriously hoping someone at the last minute would prevent that from happening. But the reality is Disney does own Fox, and well, that's just a fact. You own that content now, you own their library, and there are things in the Fox library that would actually make a lot of sense on the Disney Plus streaming platform. First of all, if you're talking about TV shows, Fox Kids has an enormous wealth of animation and IPs. Interestingly, I think Disney owned many of these before they bought 20th Century Fox because they bought that whole Fox family package thing. But if there's any confusion about who owns what, for the most part, these shows should now 100% be owned by Disney. And there's plenty of Fox Kids shows that have not been on the air for years, and I think a lot of people would love to see again and would make perfect sense on a family streaming service platform. Particularly shows like Bobby's World, Eek the Cat, and my personal favorite, Peter Pan and the Pirates. Those shows have not been seen in a long time, and they are quality shows, particularly Peter Pan and the Pirates, which I know Disney might not want to put on because it conflicts with the Disney version of Peter Pan, but Disney owns it now, so they might as well use it. Of course, we should also not forget that Fox made a bunch of Marvel shows. Now that Disney owns Fox and Marvel, it should be very easy to put the animated X-Men show, the animated Spider-Man show, Spider-Man Unlimited, Silver Surfer, the Avengers, and that Captain America show that was apparently so bad it never actually aired, but I'm sure it exists in the vault somewhere, so might want to make that a streaming service premiere. And then you have Fox animated movies, which they have quite a few. They do own Blue Sky Studios now, so that means they can put the Ice Age movies up. They can put Epic up. They could put Horton Hears a Who, and maybe even the Peanuts movie. They also own the Fox Animation Library, which was a very, very brief animation studio, and they only produced 2 movies. But they would be ironic movies to have on the streaming service, and those would be Anastasia and Titan AE. And the reason those would be ironic is because Don Bluth directed those movies, and Don Bluth, as you may remember, actually staged a mass exodus walkout from the Disney studios and started beating Disney at their own game with movies like An American Tail, The Land Before Time, and All Dogs Go to Heaven, and The Secret of NIMH, which didn't do very well, but is considered a classic now. Years later, after making several flops, Don Bluth would make Anastasia, which actually feels so much like a Disney movie. Most people think it is a Disney movie, and he basically showed that he could out Disney not only with original animation, but with Disney-esque animation. But now Disney owns a couple of his movies. They can bring him back home, whether it be inadvertently or not, and his movies can be on the Disney Plus streaming service, and Anna can finally be an official Disney princess. Also, movies like Home Alone, I'm sure, would also fit very well on the Disney Plus streaming service, particularly since there were a couple direct-to-TV movies that were made for the wonderful world of Disney and ABC. These are not particularly good movies, but they exist, so they could put them on the streaming service. Another area I fear Disney might potentially overlook is their old classic vintage material. Disney has hundreds of shorts and many anthology specials, and I think Disney needs to not forget them. We're talking, of course, about old Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy cartoons, but we're also talking about the Disneyland TV series where Walt Disney would actually come up and talk about various topics of the theme park and share vintage shorts. They might be a little outdated, but they are a fascinating glimpse at what Disneyland was looking like when it was just a drawing on the board and we didn't know exactly what it would be at one point. Also, anniversary specials. There are tons of anniversary specials for the park, for Mickey Mouse, for movies, for the company, and even though, again, some of the information is a little outdated, but it's kind of good to go back and look at what they were saying about the company at the time and dreaming out what is the Disney company going to be doing in the future and kind of look about where they were then. And some of these anniversary specials actually got Emmy nominations and won awards, so it would be nice to preserve these a little bit. Also, I do want to point out that while I doubt Who Framed Roger Rabbit will be on Disney Plus, and it probably shouldn't be on Disney Plus, but the Roger Rabbit shorts are kid-friendly, and it would be a shame if they weren't on Disney Plus. Then there are other vintage live-action TV shows like Zorro, Davy Crockett, and The Mickey Mouse Club. All of these are favorites for Disney fans. There are hundreds of shows. You can easily put them on Disney Plus. If you want to continue with old Disney stuff, let's look at some of the original Disney Channel programming. Disney Channel has produced much original content in forms of both movies and TV shows, and let's look at some of the stuff I would like to see from both. In terms of TV shows, I would love to see So Weird, Even Stevens, The Famous Jet Jackson, Boy Meets Girl / Girl Meets World, and Muppets Tonight. Now, I know that Disney's making a new Muppet show for the streaming service, so they might not want to go back to old Muppet shows, but there is The Muppet Show. There are Muppet Babies, which I know there's still some copyright conflicts there. That might not be a reality. And The Muppets from ABC. But Muppets Tonight was a Disney Channel show. Well, at least it started on ABC, moved to Disney Channel, was a staple there for several years, and I'm afraid that that might get potentially overlooked. So while I might respect that Disney might want to hold off until the new Muppet Show comes out, I would like to see all the archive classic Muppet shows and movies also on the service. But there's also one other important show that I would love to see on the Disney Plus streaming service that I think they shouldn't overlook, and that is Road to Avalon. And this was actually the first original programming Disney Channel ever made. Now, it wasn't technically a Disney-owned show. There might have to be some right negotiations on this one, but I think a lot of fans would love to see it. It's an important part of Disney history. It should be on the Disney Plus streaming service. In terms of Disney Channel original movies and the wonderful world of Disney original movies, I would like to see Northern Lights, Oliver Twist with Richard Dreyfuss and Elijah Wood, Miracle at Midnight, Safety Patrol, Murder, She Heard, Miracle in Lane 2, The Muppet Wizard of Oz, and probably most important, The Color of Friendship, which, for being a Disney Channel movie, is way more nuanced and sensitive about the topic of race than even some big budget live action movies I have seen. Another thing that can be on Disney Plus, anime. No kidding. Disney has actually made anime before, and one series I think a lot of people would love to see is Stitch the series and Doraemon. Stitch the series is an anime that took place after the events of Lilo and Stitch 2 and was made in cooperation with Japan. Now, it's very different from the movies, of course, in the sense that, it has a more Japanese aesthetic and it takes place more in Japan than in Hawaii. But there is an episode where Stitch does go back to Hawaii and meets a grown-up Lilo, and you find out how they parted in the first place, and it's a very emotional episode, and it's worth putting that show up just for that episode alone. Also, Doraemon. It did air briefly on Toon Disney or Disney XD. I guess it's always going to be Toon Disney to me. Now, this is a licensed series, but it's owned by Viz Media, I believe, and Viz Media probably would be willing to sell those rights to Disney, the distribution rights, for very, very cheap. So you can have some kid-friendly anime. And also, it'd be nice to see the Studio Ghibli movies there, but with the exception of The Wind Rises, I don't think they actually own the rights to them anymore. And The Wind Rises is not particularly a family movie. Not objectionable. I think the PG-13 rating was a very big extreme, but it was a very slow movie, and a lot of kids just get bored with it, so I don't think we're going to see Studio Ghibli on Disney Plus anytime soon. But if you want to look beyond television for the live-action movies, there actually are several Disney live-action movies that I would like to see on the service that Disney owns the rights to, that I'm fearful won't be there. And let's take a moment to highlight these. Movies like Homeward Bound will probably be on there, and that would make sense. But I would also like to see Candle Shoe on there. Robert Altman's Popeye, which was the first major motion picture starring Robin Williams. Man from Snowy River. Return to Snowy River. These are excellent movies that people have more or less forgot about. The Adventures of Tom and Huck with Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Brad Renfro. Iron Will, excellent movie. Might be a little problematic because Kevin Spacey has a supporting role in it, but it's a great movie. And Disney's The Kid. Now this one has Disney's title in it, and I remember watching a review for Siskel and Ebert, well, Ebert and Roper at the time, and they commented how much they liked it, and they were afraid that it was going to get overlooked by people at the box office. Sure enough, it did, but people who've seen it said it's an excellent movie. It's actually probably one of Bruce Willis's best performances, in my opinion. I would like to see these movies on the service. They own them. They could put them on there. I'm just afraid they're going to forget about them and not do it. But you want to know what else I want to see on the Disney Plus streaming service? And I think a lot of people would want to see this too, even if they don't actually state it. Documentaries. Disney actually owns some very, very good documentaries, and they need to highlight them. First of all, they have the True Life Adventures. Important Disney media, because I think that was the first time that Disney seriously entered the documentary market, and it was some of the original work by Roy E. Disney, who would eventually head, or be one of the heads, I should say, of the Disney Feature Animation Group. And there are plenty of them. I actually own the entire True Life Adventure series on DVD. And as much as I love this collection, one thing that is a shame about them is that these are out of print, and so they go for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But you know what? You put them on the streaming service, $10, anyone can watch them. Also, you can put the Disney nature films up, and that would obviously complement the whole nature documentary thing. But aside from nature documentaries, Disney has actually made some very, very compelling regular documentaries about their own history. I would love to see Waking Sleeping Beauty on the streaming platform. I would love to see The Boys, the Sherman Brothers story. Walt and El Grupo is not really my favorite, to be honest, but it'd be nice for it to be up there. But a documentary especially I would like to see, well, there's two. The first one is Frank and Ollie, about the real-life friendship between two of the 9 old men. Frank and Ollie were pretty much known as best friends. They were the best Disney animators, and there was this documentary made about where they basically kind of look over their life. They discuss what it was to work for the studio, how they got there. It's really fascinating, and considering that both men are no longer with us, and the DVD has not only been out of print for years, but I think has pretty much been a Disney Movie Club exclusive whenever they have released it, it would be great to see this on the platform. Other documentaries that I would love to see that you might not think Disney made, but they actually did, include Ghosts of the Abyss by James Cameron, Sacred Planet, The Pixar Story, and Morning Light. But there is one documentary, one specific documentary that I would love for Disney to finally release. I actually own a bootleg copy of this. I shouldn't, but I do. And this is by far one of the most sought after pieces of Disney history to view, and that is The Sweatbox. The Sweatbox is an interesting documentary because it was kind of made completely by accident. At one point, Disney was making a movie called Kingdom of the Sun, and they hired musician Sting to write some of the songs for the movie. In his contract, one of the stipulations he asked was for his wife to film the making of process because she is a huge fan of, Disney movies, and she wanted to try her hand at directing and a making of feature on the DVD. But they had no idea what was about to happen. They did not anticipate how troubled the production would actually be and that it would result in Kingdom of the Sun getting canceled and being completely retooled into The Emperor's New Groove. A mere 7 minutes of the movie was put on the DVD, and the rest was made into a full feature-length documentary, that played for 1 week to get Oscar qualification and has never been seen again in any legal capacity. Disney has been trying to bury this for a long time because, frankly, it makes some of the suits look very, very bad and uncaring. But considering virtually everyone is no longer with the company anymore, with the exception of Thomas Schumer, who isn't even in the Disney animation department anymore, I think it would be nice to see this on the Disney Plus streaming service. At the very least, put it on Hulu, which you're going to own. I mean, it is rated PG-13 because Sting does drop the F word once, but that F word can be edited out on Disney Plus, or again, you can put it on Hulu where the uncut PG-13 showing of the movie can be viewed. And then it's a little gravy. I would like to see some of the making of documentaries on the Disney Plus streaming service. These are the features that they make for the Blu-rays, the DVDs. They talk about, the challenges of making them, some of the history behind them. These are really well-produced stuff, and they're disappearing from the DVDs and Blu-rays, but they are still valuable and they still have good information. So put them on the Disney Plus streaming service. And finally, I do want to add that Tim Burton has directed many shorts for Disney, including Hansel and Gretel, which is rarely seen, and Vincent and Frankenweenie. These would be great. Put them on the platform along with The Nightmare Before Christmas, obviously. And really, there's a lot more that I would love to see on the streaming service. I'd love to see all the Disney afternoon shows and the one Saturday morning shows, and they could even give them their own category. But I'm going to leave it right there because these are the things that I am most afraid of getting lost and not winding up on the Disney platform service. So if anyone from Disney is watching this, please take notes and send them up to whoever's making the decision. I would love to see this on the service. In the meantime, what are some of your things that you would like to see on the Disney Plus service? I would love to know, so comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and tune in a week or two because we're going to talk about things that I think is unlikely to be on the Disney streaming service as much as we want them to be.